Chapter 2 ended on a promise. We fanned two searches out of start, watched them collide, and fixed it with a reducer. What never got explained is how that fan-out actually works, or how a graph decides what runs next at all. That is this chapter. Nodes and edges, in depth. Let us begin with the piece that trips people up first. An edge is not a step. When you call add edge, nothing runs. You are describing a connection, and the connection gets stored. Look at this graph. Plan, then search, then report. Perfectly ordinary. Now look at the order those edges were written in. Report to end came first, search to report second, plan to search third, and start to plan last, right at the bottom. The wiring was declared backwards, run it, and the output is identical. Plan, then search, then report. Because Python built the graph and then the graph decided the order. Your source file is a set of instructions for assembling a machine. It is not the machine running. Start and end are real markers inside that machine, by the way, not comments. An edge out of start is what tells the graph where a run begins, and an edge into end is what tells it a branch has finished. This distinction matters more than it looks. Once you accept that edges are data rather than statements, three things become possible: building edges inside a loop, deciding a destination while the graph is already running, creating edges that did not exist when you compiled. All three are in this chapter. A normal edge always goes to the same place. Real work needs a choice. That is a conditional edge, and it has three parts worth separating carefully. First, a routing function. Here it is called good enough. Read it closely, because the most common misunderstanding in LangGraph lives right here. This is not a node. It does no work. It writes nothing to the state. All it does is receive the state and return a string. Second, that string is a key, not a node name. Third, the path map translates keys into destinations. Retry goes to the revise node. Finish goes to end. Why the extra step? Because your routing logic should read like the decision it is making, not like a list of function names. Rename a node tomorrow and the router still says retry and finish. Wire it up with add conditional edges, which takes three arguments. Where the decision happens, the function that decides, and the map. Run it. Review scores 42, not good enough, so the router returns retry, and control moves to revise. Review runs a second time, scores 84, and now the router returns finish, which the map sends to end. 2 passes, 1 loop, and the path was chosen at runtime. Notice what is missing from the screen. Nowhere did we write a jump. The graph did the jumping. One more thing a router is allowed to do: return a list of keys rather than one, and the graph takes every matching path at once. Consider that your first taste of running branches on purpose rather than by accident. There is a friction in what we just built. The node computed something. Then a separate function read the state back and made a decision the node already had enough information to make. Command removes that round trip. A node can return command, and command carries two things: an update, which is the patch you would have returned anyway, and a goto, which names the next node. One return value, both jobs done. Here is a triage node. It counts findings, decides that 2 or more means escalate, and hands back command with the patch and the destination together. No router. No path map. That decision now lives in the code that had the facts. Notice the return annotation. Command of literal, escalate, or autofix. It is not decoration. That annotation is how compile knows which edges this node can take, which is what lets LangGraph validate the wiring and draw the diagram. Leave it off and your code still runs, but the graph no longer knows where this node might go. So when should you use which? Reach for a conditional edge when the decision is a policy you want to read on its own, separate from the work. Prefer command when the node and the decision are really one thought, and splitting them would just mean reading the state twice. One practical detail before we move on. A node returning command does not need an outgoing edge declared for the destinations it names. Its goto is the edge. Every edge so far was fixed at compile time. You knew while writing the code how many branches there were. Now suppose that number depends on the data. A planner produces 3 queries today and 7 tomorrow. You cannot write 7 edges for a number you do not have yet. Send solves this. A routing function is allowed to return a list of send objects instead of a string, and each send says, run this node with this payload. 3 sends means 3 parallel copies of the search node. 7 means 7. The width of the fan-out is now data. Look carefully at the payload. Each send carries a dictionary, and that dictionary becomes the state the target node sees. Our search node reads a key called Q, which the parent state does not even have. Which is exactly the point. A worker gets the slice it needs, not the whole world. And the results come home the way Chapter 2 taught. Notes is annotated with add, so 3 parallel writes to 1 key merge instead of colliding. Take the annotation away and you are straight back to invalid update error. This pattern has a name outside LangGraph. Map, then reduce. Send is the map, your reducer is the reduce. 2 details worth having. The target of a send needs no ordinary edge from the node that produced it, because the send itself is the routing. And a single router can mix the 2 styles freely, returning a plain key on one branch and a list of sends on another. Chapter 2 promise an explanation of what happens when branches converge. Here it is in 3 facts. Fact 1. Every node in a superstep reads the same input state. Watch 3 nodes, A, B, and C, all fanning out of start, and every one of them prints an empty notes list. Node B cannot see what it wrote because at that moment nothing has been written. Fact 2. Their patches are applied together once all 3 have finished, rather than one at a time as they complete, which is why a reducer is mandatory here and merely convenient in a straight line. Fact 3. And this is the one that surprises people. Merge order is deterministic, but it is not the order you declared the edges in. Look at the code. Those edges were added C, then A, then B. Now look at the output. Both the run order and the merge list ignore that completely. LangGraph picks the order itself, and your typing order is not a scheduling hint, so if the order of results genuinely matters to you, do not encode it in edge declarations because that will quietly stop being true. Sort inside your reducer or attach an index to each item before it gets written. Make the ordering explicit in the data, where you actually control it. There is a practical consequence hiding inside Fact 1 too. If a branch needs to see what a sibling produced, it cannot live in the same superstep. Give it a node of its own further downstream and the merge state will be sitting there waiting for it. Time to put all of it into one graph. Our research assistant finally gets a real shape. A normal edge runs from start into plan. Plan decides how many queries this round deserves, and a send fanout turns that number into that many parallel searchers. Every searcher writes in a notes which has a reducer so the branches converge without a fight. Then gather. Because gather returns command, it scores what came back and picks the next hop in a single move. Under 40 and control goes to plan for another round. 40 or over and it goes to end. Watch the run. Round 1 plans 2 queries. 2 searchers fire. 2 notes come back. Score 20. Not enough. So we loop. Round 2 asks for 3. 3 searchers fire in parallel. And now there are 5 notes and a score of 50. Gather sends it to end. 2 rounds, 6 node executions, 1 loop, and not a single if statement anywhere in the control flow. Every capability from this chapter is in those few lines of wiring: a fixed edge, a dynamic fan out, a reducer holding the merge together, and a command closing the loop. There's still no model in here. The scoring is a length check. Chapter 4 swaps that for a real language model, and none of this wiring changes. A safety note before we leave it. Any loop is only as trustworthy as its exit condition, and LangGraph will halt a runaway graph at a recursion limit rather than spin forever. Tuning that properly is Chapter 11. Let us tie the chapter off. 4 things to carry forward. An edge is a declaration, not a step. Your source order builds the graph and the graph decides what runs, which is why that wiring could be written upside down and behave identically. A conditional edge separates the decision from the work. Its routing function is not a node, it returns a key, and the path map turns that key into a destination. Command merges those 2 jobs back together for the cases where splitting them was never worth it. Update and goto in one return value with a literal annotation so compile still knows the shape of your graph. And send makes the width of a fan out a runtime value instead of a compile time one. That is the move that turns a graph into map reduce. All 4 of those rest on what Chapter 2 built. Branches read one input state, write patches, and the patches merge through the rules you chose in your schema. Nodes and edges decide what runs. Channels and reducers decide what survives. You now have the whole control flow vocabulary, and every graph so far has been pure Python. That changes next. In Chapter 4, we bind a language model to a set of tools and build a React agent from scratch. Think, then act, then observe. No pre-built helpers, just the primitives you already know. And if only one sentence from today survives, make it this one. Control flow in LangGraph is data you compute, not syntax you are stuck writing.